Our fishery was basically shut down by inaction on the government and by the actions of fish farms. None of the major parties, none of their elected representatives have been to see the old fishermen that have been affected by what's happened. They're displaying all the behaviour of someone that is beholden to vested interests, and in a democracy we're being left behind.
As the campaign heats up, another independent's joined in.
I'll be giving people a voice that are sick of the major parties.
Craig Garland is hoping this time he'll get over the line in Braddon.
All these bad decisions we've had in the last few years are as a result of a majority government. So it doesn't work.
The North West Fisherman hoping to rock the boat.
How do? Here's a bit of a snapshot of my life over the last 6 years. There was a period there where I did 5 elections in 4 years. This will be my 6th one that I'm coming up to. So we've just put together a bit of a compilation of videos that have been done in that time frame. So sit back and enjoy. This process where you go in Hobart, sitting around a table with 4 or 5 people that haven't got a clue about what you're talking about, or have got vested interests, or they don't care. There's no accountability. And when a minister doesn't care about what's going on, nothing gets done. This area out here is very, very special. It's a very special part of the world, and water quality is everything. And that's something to remember, because if the water quality is compromised, that affects all our fisheries. We have some major issues in the electorate of Braddon: family violence, gambling, social welfare issues. When you're sucking $34 million out of the community each year, most of that money is coming out of our poorer demographics. That creates problems at home, and within those poorer demographics, the ability for some of them to even get a driver's licence and a car to take the next step to find a job is just near beyond them. Roosevelt in 1930, when money was infiltrating the government, he said, "Government by organised money is as good as government by organised mob." And what we have today is very much along those lines. And the only way we have to display our discontent is at the ballot box. The only way we can send that loud message to this mob that seem to think it's okay to come in on a well-funded campaign on the back of the gambling industry, buy an election, will privately carving up behind closed doors what belongs to us and all Australians, I might add, without any input from us, is just outrageous.
Craig Garland's been a professional fisherman in Tasmania's northwest for most of his life.
Got anything yet? Nothing?
The Independent is straight down the line, even with his campaign slogan.
Stand up or bend over and take it. The choice is yours.
It's that sort of honesty he's hoping will be rewarded by voters tomorrow. If he reels enough in,
Salmon?
He could be a kingmaker in the Braddon contest.
We became aware of salmon farms when they started dumping seals on us in the early 90s. They shut down our fishery, 5 or 6 of us, 30-tonne fishery. We fed all the communities along this coast. We fought actively for 28 years to get that stopped. Our Premier at this time, Jeremy Rockcliffe, he wasn't elected then. One of our members was meeting with him to get this issue resolved. He promised him as soon as he got in, he'd deal with it. As soon as he got in, our phone calls weren't returned, and he even shunned that fisherman concerned at a local service station when he was confronted with him. And it's up to us, the community, to demand that we take where we want to go out here. Now, you've seen how corrupt it is. Jeremy Rockcliffe, when he got in, I gave him that report on the King George whiting. I said, Jeremy, this is a big news story. They tick 3 boxes. It's the most sought after inshore sports fish in southeast Australia. It's arguably the finest inshore eating fish we have, and it's also the highest value inshore fish we have. They're breeding in numbers here. The science done by Melbourne University confirmed that we had the biggest in the country by double and the oldest population. I put the report on his desk. I said, this is big news, Jeremy. This is something we can bring the whole community in and develop a pathway. He pushed it across. I pointed to the map where they were breeding. And a few months later, I'm sitting watching TV, and on the evening news is the Mayor of Circular Head, Jeremy Rockcliffe, and the Liberal Party, and salmon farms are coming to the northwest. That's how we found out about it. Not one fisherman in this state was at that table with that carver. Now, people of Braddon and the greater people of Australia, right now, the corruption that is throwing all these stupid decisions, setting community up in arms, and they're not addressing the big, big picture. Our kids, their future, and a clean environment to live in. And we've been given in spades right here, and it's time right now for us to show a bit of maturity right across all the political spectrums and put those major parties last, because that's where they've been putting us for the better part of my life.
Craig, why should people vote for you in the Senate?
I'll offer something different, someone new. You know, people are sick of the same two old party thing, you know. An old footy quote is, if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you always get. We need diversity in Parliament. You know, I come from a fishing background. That's been my life, basically. So I've got a good understanding of primary industries, and yeah, I think I offer something that's been sadly missing.
Most people that come in as independents or minor parties have got a particular policy agenda that they're trying to push. What sort of things would you like to see?
I'd like to see a few of our fishing issues addressed, you know. You look at the abalone industry, the divers' deckhands getting 8 and 11%. You know, the cray industry, they're not even covering their costs in most cases. Fishermen are going broke, boats are being tied up. And in the case of our small mesh fishery on the North West Coast, they dumped seals on us for 25 years, you know, closed that fishery down. We went to something else, and then that was allowed to be overrun as well. So, you know, just a general neglect and ignorance to the plight of the fishermen. You know, it's all about common sense, and I think that's what I'll bring to the table. I've got the respect of also the Liberals now. Me and Eric, we had a bit of a swinging match last year, but, you know, I've met with him a couple of times, and, you know, he understands where I'm coming from now. I'm not a rat bag, I don't peddle in lies. I'm here for the best interests of the state and these people.
Do we really need trawlers in today's age? And in Tasmania, should we not be calling for the best managed fisheries in the world? And quite rightly, a lot of these recreationals are up in arms. Strict bag limits, spawning closures, all the rest of it. And yet just out over the horizon, and they've got a fish meal plant on board this thing too. And Petuna Sea Lord, guess where they want to come? Up in our fucking northwest. Jesus Christ, wake up, people. This is a foreign-owned company that is trashing our waterways, killing our shy albatross. We've got the largest population of shy albatross on the planet out here. Should we not be protecting all these areas from them? No, this is just illogical. And we do get nothing from it. 12,000 odd tonne. What do we get? A couple of forklift drivers in Burnie where they unload it out of sight of everyone. Yeah, that's a good return to the community. And you got to remember, we own these bloody fish. They do not belong to some rich bastard to come in and take quota. Now let's talk about quota. Who owns all that now? Abs working poor, crayfishermen working poor, taking all the risk, doing all the work and getting a pittance in return. And don't forget the population that own these fucking fish. We can't even access them at a reasonable price. And it just shows recently that people are willing to pay a decent price if they can get access to the fish they own. Should we not be demanding what our fishermen get and access to our fish stocks, not have to wait for it to come back from wherever or fly to China to eat it? No, wake up, people. We have an amazing opportunity here going forward to manage our fisheries, to provide a strong economic broad return to the general community. We have to unify. I am sick of standing up, trying to get something done, to be shouted down by some peanut that isn't even from here. Come in and, he's a fucking greenie. Fucking greenie. Fair dinkum, mate. It just makes me so wild. Now is the time for the recreationals, for the commercial fishermen with a long-term interest and a view in this industry so our kids can enjoy what we grew up with. And I tell you right now, if we don't act in the next few years...
Let's talk about Tassal. This crowd will pretend that they care about our community, they care about jobs. It's all bullshit. They've killed Macquarie Harbour, they're complicit in the mess down there. They've taken 5,000 seals down from there, dropped them between here and here, for the last 25 years, 2 springs running right through the migratory season of our spawning fish species. They drop 4,000 to 5,000 in that coastline there. When we raised our concerns, oh yeah, we care, we want to meet up with you, they promised a meeting with their department head, the head spin doctor, Barbara McGregor. I said to Bob before the meeting, I bet they don't turn up, and sure enough, we had 2 young blokes sent along to talk to us. After that meeting, they said they'd get back to us within 2 weeks. They didn't. I had a bit of a breakdown and chased a relocator along the highway and nearly got violent. And I reported that. The next day, those seal relocations were stopped. All these pricks care about is 2 things: money to the company and an increase in the dividend to the shareholder. And the other thing I don't like, they're using Tasmania as part of their name. There's no such thing as Tasmanian Atlantic salmon. Atlantic's in the northern hemisphere. I object to it. Cross the T out. They shouldn't be allowed to use it. Time to make a decision, not based on money, based on the health of our marine environments, the significance of the areas concerned. That's what we need to be doing. Not about cash. You know, wake up, people. This is serious. This is our home. It's been shit on here. No social licence there. Close down our wild fishery here. Want to go into this area, probably the most significant breeding area for that many species. It just makes me so bloody wild. To put something in the middle of there that has no resistance to the pilchard virus in stocking densities that they obviously don't care about down here. Ram in as many as you can, get as much money out of as you can, and then we're left with the mess. Back in the industrial age, burning at APPM, they had the zinc, the dioxide there, acid plant here, and then all the storage systems along the coast, all dumping all their crap out in here. You know, those days are over. We're not a dumping ground for corporations.
Tails wagging the dog with this, and these sellout politicians, the major parties, are allowing it to happen. They're the ones that need to shift and move along, and the only way they're going to move is if we make them move. So,
Kuda, because that was my nickname at the time, he said it's all about sense of community and raw honesty. And what we have right now, there is no sense of community with the people that are running the state, and there is no honesty. And when you don't have honesty, you don't have trust, and if you don't have trust, you don't have the consent of the community. And you cannot live like this. You'll see fracture, 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 and we'll become more and more divided, and the only ones that benefit out of this are the 2 parties. As long as we're divided, they prosper. It's coming to a time where people have to stand up and make a big call, and I hold a lot of faith in the Braddon electorate, because we're the biggest swingers in the country. We get sick of one lot, we throw the other in. Now we are approaching a time that we throw both those lots out, and we send a loud message, not only to the political system in this state, but Australia in general. We're a staunch community, we always have been, we've always helped each other, we've come from adversity, we've had pandemics, depressions, 2 world wars, and then we've come out of that period. We created community through that sense of, you know, we had to work together to survive, to eat, to get our families fed. And now we've sort of gone away from that. We have to come back together, and planning is the catalyst for that. That is the starting point.
Right, I'm standing in front of where APPM used to be, which used to turn this whole bay black with its effluent. Now, that's been gone for 20 years, and out here our waters have cleaned up dramatically. We've got fish everywhere, bait fish, tuna, King George whiting, snapper, kingfish, cuttlefish going off its tits. And right at a time when we've got all that happening, they wish to bring salmon farms into this area. They've killed Macquarie Harbour, they've killed the D'Entrecasteaux Channel. It doesn't seem to halt their progression. They want to come here and do pretty much the same out here. Now, if you're a fisherman or a nature lover, a surfer, a kayaker, or somebody that gives a damn about our environment, I do not want to see us taken back to those days of industrial pollution into these waterways. Salmon farm industry hasn't earned the right to be here, and if you watched the JBS Swift thing the other day, it's as corrupt as buggery. It is disgraceful, the treatment, and it is even disgraceful that we're sitting here now being affected by this thing that's thrown on us by people that sit in high places and never set foot in that area. You've heard it from Eric, you've heard it from Mick, and you've heard it from Ben. This is just a no-brainer. And there is an alternative. This is the other beauty. There's a project that's on the draw cards on the West Coast Renewables. 3,000 construction jobs. You know, that's for us Tasmanians. Where's the Labor Party on that? The Liberal Party, it's mainly for hydrogen production. They've gone ahead and given funding to Fortescue and Origin, two major donors to the Liberal Party for hydrogen production in Bell Bay. There's your pork barrel that Simon Bevan-Lacqua talked about a few weeks ago in the paper. You know, we've got an election coming up. What did the North West get out of the funding? We got absolutely zilch. In March they were talking about hydrogen production and using the Port of Burnie. Where are we now? Roger Jensch has been stalling and stymieing this project from day one because they know this one here is a lemon. The West Coast Renewable Ones ticks all the boxes. No bird impacts. Australian managed superannuation funds using existing easements and infrastructure for the power. What else have we got? Hydrogen production. They've offered cheap power to get the salmon farms, another contentious area we're going to be dealing with here shortly, to get them on land and finally out of our waterways and treating this place and this state with respect. You look at what's available there, and all along this coast, our fish traps predate the pyramids, all the caves for the Aboriginal side of things. You can converge there every October. You can build a whole industry just informing not only us, because it's been suppressed, all that information, but the greater part of Australia in that. The fishing side of things, 60 trailers at the boat ramp at Montagu the other day. We're not relying on tourists from elsewhere. We're relying on people from this state using these places that we love. And it's up to us to make sure that they're protected from idiot projects such as this, which benefit nobody.
So after I heard about fish farms coming to the northwest on the evening news, I ran around all the fishermen and compiled all this here. So all these shaded areas are wild fisheries. You know, you've got your abalone, you've got your shark, you've got your scallops, you've got your crayfish, you've got your calamari, you've got your King George whiting, you've got your rock flathead, you've got your snook, you've got your salmon, and you can just go on and on and on and on. Now, this is where they've been allocated to put their fish farm enterprise in. You can see all around and outside this perimeter also are major wild fisheries. And this area here, with the seagrass beds, the amount of fish that come here to feed and breed is astronomical. And they come here for the very reason it's a clean, unadulterated, wild, natural environment. And it's not only the fish that this whole area supports, it's the massive amount of birds that we have had here. You've got millions of mutton birds. We've got the largest shy albatross on the population on the planet. To put something of that nature, and if you're at any doubt about the effects that these things have on the environment and also on the community at large, have a read of Richard Flanagan's new book, Toxic. It covers everything. You know, we don't want them here, and we certainly don't want them along the greater coast of the northwest. Whatever they put into that water will end up on our shoreline. We'll end up with the same muck, filth, slime and degraded fisheries over a period of years that they have down in the D'Entrecasteaux Channel and elsewhere. This area here was given over to a company by the minister of the time. I believe it's his cousin's company. They've since on sold to Sealord Nasui without any input whatsoever from any fisherman in this state. And there has been no return whatsoever. So what you're seeing right now is a reallocation of a wild fishery area over to a foreign national with a terrible track record without 1 cent changing hands to us. And if you think that's okay, you vote Liberal and Labor and you wait and see what you get thrown at you. And don't say you weren't forewarned. In fact, anyone that's thinking about putting Labor and Liberal first on this coast in Braddon, what they are saying, you don't care about our Aboriginal heritage, you don't care about our fisheries, you don't care about our farmers, you don't care about the leaving community, you don't care about the fact that there's nothing in it for us, and in the case of the wind farms, it's at a cost. It's just impact after impact after impact. Foreign-based company Hong Kong, Sealord Nasui, Kiwi, Japanese. All of that, and what do we get out of it? At current, we're getting half a cappuccino for each one of us Tasmanians. That's the return from the lease areas for these salmon farms, who are turning over $900 million. half a cappuccino each. If you think that's okay, you got rocks in your head. This project impacts everyone and everything, and there's nothing in it for us Tasmanians except impacts and costs. The channel area, this whole marine environment here is just one big feeding and breeding ground. The fish that come here to reproduce, the birds that come here to feed, they've done no baseline science to determine the nature of what is in here and how it operates. They put a causeway or bridge up the end there. It's going to dramatically affect the hydrology of this area. This is all political, and if anything, if the people of Tasmania haven't had enough evidence with what's going on in the political process right now with major parties and their self-absorbed nature, and the Liberals with their nature deficit disorder, they have no understanding whatsoever about culture, about the meaning of the place, about the creatures that come here. They are so ignorant to the plight, and look what they're doing. They've forced a fisherman like me to leave me 3 kids. I've hardly fished for the last 4 years because I'm so concerned not only with this project, robins, salmon farms, Lake Malbina and all that, they're all symptoms of a bigger problem. An out-of-touch government that's not being held to account, and more than ever we need diversity in Parliament. I don't want to turn this into political, but it's always political. The political side of things is the solution. And right now, all Tasmanians have to send these major parties a loud message that we're sick and tired of their crap. And the places that we hold dear have to be respected. And we have to have our say. Community is not at the table. If it is, it's 1 or 2 lone voices. They're being shouted down by everybody else, or they don't give a damn, or they're not from here. So it's about community standing up, taking back what belongs to us, what we hold dear, and the only way you're going to achieve that is by going to the ballot box and supporting independence. That's the only way you're going to get across to this crowd, because I tell you now, if Liberal get back in, you'll hear about salmon farm expansion from Stanley all the way through to Devonport. We'll have this forced on us, and God knows what else with our parks and everything else that will be given up in secret deals without discussions with the community. And that is absolutely disgraceful. So Tasmanians have a choice. It's a line in the sand moment as far as I'm concerned. And if you're wondering how effective one independent can be, I haven't even been elected yet, but I got an email last night. I did a video, I won't go into details. It was last week. A fella sent me an email last night. He said, I sent a letter off to these people 2.5 months ago, waiting on a reply. They didn't even answer me. They stalled, rah, rah, rah. Within 2 hours of my video going up, he had an email from the minister. So, if you think one person can't be effective, I'm not even in there yet. You know, we've got to get behind our independence. We've got 2 really good ladies down south that are putting their hand up there. If we can get an independent in up here on the coast, it's quite possible they will have to negotiate. There will be transparency. Transparency will be an outcome of that, and the community's best interests will be served. I've met with Sue Hickey and a couple of others, and their hearts are in the right place. The rest of them, they're just career politicians that roll out 2 months before an election, tell you what you want to hear, promise bags of cash, jobs, growth, all the rest of it, get in, and then you don't see them again. So it's up to people, it's up to you and each and every one of you and your friends and everyone else in this community to stand as one and send a loud message. This UPC project would have to be the most stupid project I think we've had forced on the community in my time. And it just goes to show they do not care, they have no idea what they're dealing with, and that's because of the money that's infiltrating the upper echelons of parties. You know, they've forgotten about why they're there. It's about us, the community, and we need them to be reminded. So the best way you can do that is give your vote to an independent. Everything seems to be dollars, 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 dollars. Well, everything that means everything to us is not about dollars. You know, it can't be replaced with dollars. You know, some things are just so priceless that they're worth laying your life down for. And I'll keep coming back to the kids, you know. It's about a better world for them. You know, we can't take our shit with us, our empires.
You can have a shed full of everything, you can have two of everything, but it means nothing at the end of the day. It has no worth whatsoever. So, a clean water you can drink, fish you can eat, and bush you can sit under and smell after a rain. You all know what I'm talking about, it just goes right through you. You know, this monoculture, we've turned society into a monoculture and done the same to our bush. You can see the correlation, you know. We have to retain our diversity and we have to make sure that it's protected and that it flourishes, you know.
Where they plan to put that farm in the far northwest is directly where our King George whiting, arguably the finest eating finfish we have in southeast Australian waters, the most valuable and the most prized by the recreational fraternity. And at a time when our fisheries are going off their tits, they are coming in with these assurances to fish farms and companies that have terrible track records over and above the best interest of the community. So, it kills the larvae. Right now, the snapper, the kingfish, and in this esky here, I'd like Cole if you could come up and lift up. We've been catching bluefin tuna here for the last 8 weeks. They passed through this area in the 80s and 90s. I caught 1 or 2 on my net, but there was no bait fish for them to feed on. Now, the bait schools out here are significant, and like I said, we've got kingfish, snapper, whiting, and bluefin tuna in abundance. So, let's not focus on what we don't have, and that is fish farms. Let's focus on what we do have. You know, whiting, kingfish, snapper and the rest are already dragging in tourists from mainland to come here and take advantage of this exceptional fishing. This is also a food security issue. We live in one of the most marginal electorates in Australia. Our culture has always been based around catching, producing and sharing out what we have. We've had to do that to survive. These farms go in, they'll be killing the fish larvae. One thing I forgot to mention, any foreign matter on the surface to these 0.3 of a mil fish larvae, they die. That's it, simple, dead and gone. What they will be putting in those waters directly in that spawning environment will kill not only the whiting. Around the shores of Stanley, we've got the largest population of weedy sea dragons probably in Australia. They feed on tiny mycetes and little fish eggs, and what will happen to them once their diet's gone? They go. And what will happen over a period of years, as has happened in the Bruny Island area, you'll have slime all along your shoreline, the seagrass beds will be fouled, and incidentally, once again, we've got the largest seagrass meadows in this state, down in that far northwest. Sitting there watching the evening news quite a few years ago, our minister at the time, Jeremy Rockcliffe, who was the primary industry minister, said fish farms are coming to the northwest. I thought, when did we have that discussion? The fishing community weren't involved in any way, shape or form in the making of that decision. We found out on the evening news. Then the minister allocated to his cousin's company, Petuna Seafoods, that grow out area. Without any discussion, without any money changing hands, and now we see it in the hands of Sea Lord Nisui that have a terrible track record, and incidentally they're not allowed to do this open net aquaculture in New Zealand that they're pursuing here.
We don't need salmon farms here. The nasties that they bring, the no resistance to the pilchard virus, dumping all their problem seals from down south into our fishing grounds.
We don't trust where the whole industry is at the moment. The Stanley Chamber of Commerce, they support what Matt Morgan introduced at the Rock Lobster meeting, and that is no finfish expansion west of Black River until we get independent peer-reviewed science and 100% guarantee that there's not going to be any impact on our wild fisheries. People that live here are fully aware of the different fish species that come here because they fish them and catch them and eat them. It's unindustrialised at this point in time, and that's the way it should stay. I never envisaged that I would be putting my hand up in the political sphere, but it was out of frustration and seeing things for what they are and what they should be If you want wind farms in the right location, if you want salmon farming done right and not impacting our inshore coastal areas, if you want full disclosure of where the money's coming from into these two major parties, and if you want accountability and transparency, you'll vote 1 for Garland. Stand up and make the change. Vote 1, Craig Garland. And of course our oceans, the bad fishing practices, you know, the unsustainable salmon farm operations that are going on here at the moment.
They're killing our waterways, they're windrowing, clear felling, pushing up rainforest and then burning it to the point where even the soil can't support anything. This is disgraceful.
I want to bring the salmon farm industry into check. Yeah, my main concerns are community, environment and Tasmania. I've lived here my whole life. I've seen major changes through the environment and through the community. We've got quite a few issues that need to be addressed. I was born and raised in Wynyard. I fished through shorelines and all the streams and trod around all the bush here until I was about 14 or 15. Then I was sent off to the Navy. I didn't get to finish grade 10. I had a few discipline issues that was agreed that the Navy was the best place for me, and in hindsight they were right.
Let our wild trout fishery get back to what it should be and give it the proper management and funds and resources that it needs.
They've got dead zones in World Heritage areas. They went into Oakhampton Bay without social licence. They've relocated 5,000 seals onto our wild fishing grounds and collapsed our wild calamari resource. The shooting of cormorants, the burying of seals in their backyards, and the non-inclusive nature of this decision process is why I'm standing up.
If you got caught lying in the 70s and earlier as a politician, you fell on the sword, you resigned. And that's what should be expected and leave Parliament and let somebody else come in and tell the truth.
Well, I think if I get up and anybody else is the very same issues we have. You know, you got to remember robins and salmon farms and our park sell-off and Lake Malbina are all symptoms of a bigger problem. And that is the sell-out nature of what we have here, this mandate they take when they get 30-odd% of the vote. You know, we've evolved into an elective dictatorship.